Hey y'all, Aaron here, helping musicians get better faster, and that was the 910 Trombone Euphonium etudes for the 2023 audition for Florida All-State. Now I'm going to give you my tips for all of them, but of course, make sure if you haven't done so already, they come out of these two books. So make sure you grab yourselves a couple copies of them. They come out for 9, 10, 11, 12, all of those grades come out of these two books. So you might as well go ahead and grab a couple copies. I have affiliate links down below. The affiliate does not cost you any extra money. It just helps out the channel a little bit. So give it a go, and while you're there, if you want to buy a 4K TV, so have it. Also, if you're one of the 90% of you who watch these videos and are not subscribed, just click the button. It's helpful. I appreciate it. Okay, but anyway, let's get started. We're going to talk about the Lyrical first, number 5 from the Melodious Etudes book. So big problem number 1 with this etude is there's not a lot of dynamic information that's given to you to help you in this thing. You have a lot of pianos dropped at the beginning of a lot of these phrases, and one mezzo forte and a couple crescendo decrescendo things. So make sure that what is written there is really overdone, and then if you're going to add anything new, I actually think in this case it's gonna be okay. You can add a little bit of crescendo decrescendo fun dynamically, as long as it helps your expressiveness, but be careful to not do it outside of the context of whatever dynamic it is you're working in. So for instance, if you're in piano and you think about a piano as a 3 to 4 on a 10 notch dynamic range, then stay within that 3 to 4. Don't start tickling 5 or 6 just because you want to be expressive. Stay within the range of the dynamic. And I think that's okay. Something that's a little bit tricky, and you can find various opinions on how to go about this, but it's the slur into an accent that happens in the middle of this thing. Now, whether or not you want to air accent, or if you want to go ahead and tongue that, or what you want to do, just make sure that it pops. I do suggest a legato articulation. So turning this with the slur, it becomes this. It becomes a tenuto accent. Is that backwards on the camera? I guess it kind of looks that way. But you get what I'm saying. I would still actually articulate it. I think the slur, but with an accent on top of it, kind of negates that. And I would go ahead and legato articulate, but make sure there's a lot of front to that. Back to those dynamics we were talking about earlier, you do have the mezzo forte that crescendos at the end. Be careful that you don't push that to a point where it's uncharacteristic. You want to maintain your really good sounds even as you get louder, and in this case, higher. And the final two big things are going to be, 1, pay attention to your intonation as you're going through this thing and as you're practicing this thing, and make sure that you know what you normally play out of tune and what normally needs to be addressed. Just be careful with that. A lot of this is exposed, and a lot of it is kind of arpeggiaty, and a lot of the notes make sense. It's not odd music, so a lot of the notes are going to make sense. They don't jump out of nowhere, so it's going to be easy for a judge to catch if something sounds kind of off. Thing 2, and my last practice suggestion, is make sure that you actually practice this with a metronome. A lot of times we hear, oh, lyrical, and I can be expressive, so I don't need to think about tempo, which is such a weird thought process to me, but it happens more than you'd think. Make sure that you are using the suggested tempo by the FBA, and that you're playing everything in rhythm as much as humanly possible, especially dotted 8ths and 16ths. Those have a tendency to get tripletty, so just pay attention. And from my experience with all-state auditions before, people like to speed up and slow down as is convenient to them. don't be that person. Make sure that you lock in, except for the rallentando there at the end. So with that, let's move on to the technical. One of two F majors in here, page 11, and this one's gonna be weird. And what's weird about it is it doesn't feel like those two first 16th notes are actually the downbeat. It feels like they're a pickup to the 8th. So it feels, instead of being da 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 da, it doesn't feel like that so much as it feels like da da dee da da, right? It feels kind of like that. So careful in your practice that you're aware of that, and get used to counting yourself off before you start playing so that you can lock into your own tempo before you start playing. So literally thinking about, before notes come out of your horn, going 1, 2, ready, da da dee da da. 98% of your world right now in band and behind your instrument is somebody telling you when to play. Don't make this the exception. Make sure that you're used to counting yourself off in this case. Now, all of these 8th notes tied to something else do have a staccato in where it's going, so you can lift a little bit, but you want to make sure that it still maintains its rhythmic accuracy. The other thing we're going to be looking for is cleanliness, especially on the boo-dee-dee-doo-da-da-da-da, like all of those kind of like run and jumps. We're going to be listening for rhythmic accuracy, but also tone accuracy, making sure you're actually doing things like in measure 24, jumping from the F to the A, and we're actually getting an A out, and making sure all of those partials are being hit. And the last big thing with this one is just make sure that measure 16 and the very last note of the entire selection, please make sure that you play the quarter note for a quarter note's length, that it goes all the way and tickles too. A lot of people are gonna kind of cheat that one a little bit. Don't be that person. Play it for an entire quarter note's length. That is the sign of a very mature musician. Otherwise, with an excerpt like this, where it looks like this, get good. Like, there's really not a lot I can tell you. Practice with a metronome, make sure you're doing everything accurately, and when you practice with a metronome, make sure you're doing it really slow and that you're really ingraining everything into your own practice, so that when you get into a performance situation, it is exactly the way you want it to be. So yeah, these are your 2 etudes that you have to worry about for the audition. Otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward audition, and neither of these etudes are wacky necessarily. Of course, they both have their things, but I think this is a very accomplishable audition if you prepare the right way. And speaking of preparing the right way, make sure that you look at the new updates to the registers for scales. Some of you who have been really betting on using 3-octave scales to help you get in, that's not a thing anymore. Just make sure you know about that and you're aware of where you can and cannot play. Now, of course, I did mention that there are affiliate links down there, but I will have PDFs of the 2 pages that these come from on my website for educational purposes. However, they're not going to be up right when I'm filming this. So if you're early to this video, just bear in mind, if you see a link in the description, that means they're up. Just give me a moment. I'm going to try to do all of them all at the same time, so I just don't have to update my website a bunch, so just be patient. So if you made it this far through the video, do all the things, the likings, the subscribings, all that sort of stuff. It's super helpful. I am done with my being in school, so I feel like I can get some more content out that will be helpful for you all. But otherwise, good luck preparing for your audition, and yeah, be happy, never satisfied. I'll see you next time.